I just want to do something that I'm going to commit to.
I'm so compelled to share, to pull other people out of their situation.
And I'm giving hope to women just like me who, probably felt unseen or
It's just about finding what you love and what you're passionate about.
Do what you love. Do what you love.
And I really realized that this is what happens once you let go. You just create all that space,
It's about helping each other. It's about growing with each other. It's about being true to self.
To whom much is given, much is required.
You only ever have one obstacle, and that's yourself.
The Commit to Change. Change your life. Change your future.
Hey, and welcome to the Commit to Change, otherwise known as C2C podcast, that gives a voice to the people who may be considered a small fry in their industry, but are doing big things in the communities. This is Miss Nikki, the Jane of all trades, but the master of living. I am committed to introducing local VIPs, which are vivaciously inspiring people to encourage you on your daily journey, to let you know what is possibly happening around you in your area. Today, we have coming from Cambridge, Massachusetts, Keisha Greaves. Say hello.
Hello, Miss Nikki. Hi, everybody. Keisha here.
Well, welcome to the C2C family. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We are so happy to have you. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a motivational speaker. She is the founder of Girls Chronically Rock and the Massachusetts State Ambassador for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Girls Chronically Rock offers inspired fashion celebrating muscular dystrophy and other chronic illnesses. Over the past few years, and I'm scared of her because I'm about to tell you what she does. She has been featured in Good Morning America, The Today Show, WCVB Chronicle. You see, I got to add that with it. ABC News, Thrive Global, Politico, Improper Bostonian, Boston Voyager, Herself 360, Liz on Biz, among other outlets on and offline. She was also featured on Channel 5, ABC Chronicle, and in Today's Style Heroes, among other celebrities such as Gabrielle Union, Drew Barrymore, Deborah Messing, and more. She's lent her voice to audiences at the Spaulding Rehabilitation Center in Charlestown, Massachusetts General Hospital, the Boston Muscle Walk, local Fill the Boot events, Cambridge City Hall, and Girls Night Out for Muscular Dystrophy, which is a Boston area fundraising event held by the NextonScene. Keisha spearheaded fruitful collaborations with other notable fashion influencers, which resulted in thousands of dollars raised for MDA. The most successful collaborations being with renowned designer Sara, Campbell, and Althea Blackford, the women behind Caribbean Fashion Week. Woo, a mouthful. Come on. One of Keisha's proudest moments happened after working and meeting with Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker. Keisha got officially proclaimed on September 30th. Keisha got September 30th officially proclaimed Limb Girdle Muscular Dystrophy Awareness Day. That is awesome. And it's coming. It's coming up. Yes.
I know, right? I'm like, I still can't believe it either.
Wow. Okay. So she was also, she received the proclamation from Mayor Mark McGovern from the city of Cambridge. So I am humbly, once again, introducing Miss Keisha Greaves.
Oh, please. Well, thank you so much for that marvelous introduction. I'm like, wait, who's she talking about?
It's you, girl. It is you.
Yes. So yeah, I guess that's me.
So tell us a little bit more about you. I mean, there's so much,
Sure.
but tell us like what makes Keisha? Who is Keisha?
You're gonna make me laugh throughout this podcast. Oh, hello again, everybody. My name is Keisha Greaves, as Miss Nikki mentioned, and I am from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I am the founder and CEO of Girls Chronically Rock clothing brand. And I started that brand in around 2017 because I wanted to help inspire and empower others in the disability community. Because I myself live with a disability called muscular dystrophy, which is a muscle disease that kind of weakens your body pretty much over time. Crazy story is that I was diagnosed with this in my early 20s. So I'm 35 years old now. I just turned 35 like last September 5th. I'm getting old. I can't even keep up anymore. So yeah, it wasn't even something like I was born with. Right. It's true. It's true. You know, like you realize you're more like, but like certain things like you would freak out before you're like, what was I doing? But yeah, so I was diagnosed with this in my early 20s when I was actually in graduate school receiving my master's degree. So it was totally weird. Just to give a little background about that, it's like, I would just be kind of walking and the symptoms started when my leg would kind of just give out on me. Like I would just be walking and then boom, my leg would give out and I would fall to the floor. So it happened like once or two times before. And then I just kind of thought, oh, no big deal. Maybe I just need to lose some weight. I'm not really thinking anything of it, but then it just kept on happening. And then like my mom and sister, it was like the last time I really had like a bad fall, we was all like leaving the supermarket and my leg kind of just like gave out and I would just fall to the floor. And when that happened, it wasn't like, say, when I fell, I was able to say, get back out. Like some people are able to just get back up without a problem. It was like kind of like a dead weight. Like I was on the floor, like not able to get myself back up. And even it was hard for my mom and sister. So I always remember that day too, when a stranger in the supermarket came over to help, because he's, like I couldn't get back up. And my mom and sister were like, I think something's not right. Maybe let's go see an orthopedic, because we're thinking maybe it's something in the feet. So, I'm like, all right, whatever. So we go see an orthopedic at Tufts Medical Hospital out here in Boston, Massachusetts. And then from there we go in. I always remember like regular examination, two doctors come in, ask me to raise my right leg, ask me to raise the left leg. And I'm like, the legs honestly would not like move up as like, say, a normal able-bodied person's leg, wouldn't move up. And that's something I noticed that first moment. And then they both kind of looked at each other like, I think you need to see a neurologist. And, because they think it's something more neuromuscular. And I'm like, still like not thinking anything of it. Still like something may be wrong, but it's probably just like something as simple as that. But that's what I'm thinking. So I go see a neurologist. We go straight to it. I get MRI done, EKG, EMG, all these testings I never even heard of. But the most interesting of all was when they gave me a muscle biopsy. And they took that muscle biopsy from out of my right leg. I was not put to sleep. I was fully wide awake, see everything go down. So that was interesting. And then from that muscle biopsy, that's when they determined I had muscular dystrophy. Crazy, right?
Oh my God. So what did that do like to your psyche? Like what was going through your mind during that?
Right. Like what was it? It's like, here I am in my early 20s, living my best life in graduate school, still you doing things a young 20-year-old would do. And so it's like when the doctor called me that day and said, you have muscular dystrophy, the first thing I thought was, she must have called the wrong person. That's honestly what I was thinking. Like maybe she got test results, mixed up with another patient. Because I was like, what? And then, when some doctors, they're so bluntly too, they just kind of say it as if it's like, you have muscular dystrophy, like, it is what it is. And so, I did what like a normal person would do. I start and I run and I go to Google. I start Googling muscular dystrophy because I never even heard of this. Nobody in my family seemed to have it. I'm like, what is muscular dystrophy? So as I'm reading all this thing online saying like there's no treatment, no cure, like it does progress over time, it does worsen. And then I'm reading like, oh, it does affect like mostly kids at their, childhood age, and it mostly affects young boys. So as I'm reading all of that, I'm like, well, that can't be me, because some of these symptoms, it wasn't adding up. So I'm like, oh, she got this test wrong. Like, I probably have like something else she doesn't know, so I was just trying to say everything but then I know deep down inside that I know that test was correct, because when like, it, but I was just still thinking like, I was going to get that phone call like, oh, Keisha, we made a mistake. Oh, that's what I was thinking. So of course it totally messed with my mindset. Here I am. I had dreams. I always been into fashion, wanted to be a fashion designer. I looked up to fashion designers such as Kimora Lee Simmons from Baby Fat. And I love Betsy Johnson because I love her tutus and her colorfulness. So, you know, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Well, of course, getting this news, like, how am I supposed to feel and think? I'm like, what does my future hold? What is going to happen? I'm not reading the best things online about muscular dystrophy, you know, so of course I totally shut down. I'm not even telling, say, family and friends. The only reason family knew was because, you know, my mom, you know, told, because she got like 6 or 7 sisters, you know, so it's like, you know, but it's like, it wasn't something like I was announcing. I totally shut down. That was hard. Like, I have muscular dystrophy. How am I supposed to like react or, you know, be with that?
So what inspired you? Like, what kept you going, and what said, well, you know, even though I have this, I can still be a designer. I can still move forward. Like, what was the shift in your mind, like from that moment of like, oh my God, this is happening to me, to it's happening to me and I'm still going to do what I got to do? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, so it definitely took some time. Like, I tell people to this day, I feel like I just came out of denial, like, honestly, the other day. So it definitely took some time as things start to progress. Because at first, when I was diagnosed, you know, I'm still able to drive, still doing me. Like, walking, you can see I walk with a limp, but I was still like able bodied. Like, looking at me, you want to say, oh yeah, she has muscular dystrophy. So it's like I'm still, you know, living my life, but still not really telling people, oh yeah, I got muscular dystrophy. So when things started to progress and I started using a cane, my mobility aid, you know, and mind you, I'm working in the retail field, like at retail stores, merchandising for like at Macy's for Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein. So all of that. So when I'm going to job interviews or going into work, I'm telling them, oh, I sprained my ankle while I was in a car accident. I'm saying everything but, because it sounded better. Like, to me, to say muscular dystrophy, oh, I have it out loud, it was going to make it feel like it was too real, if that makes sense. So I was saying everything, but it sounded better. So it was like, kind of like, as I walked through that door, it was kind of like whatever came to my head first, like, oh yeah, I was in a car accident, you know, because, you know, but I knew eventually, I'm like, I would have to tell these people what's going on. A car accident, like, eventually I could get better. Sprained ankle, like, this muscular dystrophy is not going anywhere. So it was actually one day when my friend suggested, Keisha, why don't you write a blog, share your story, let people know what's going on. And I said, why would I do that? I don't have muscular dystrophy, you know? So my mindset is still like, you know, but then I took a minute. I'm like, all right, open my laptop. I just literally start typing and writing like about all the symptoms, like just pretty much like how I am with you now. And it took that moment as I'm typing and saying it out loud. I'm like, wow, I have muscular dystrophy. Like, that's crazy. It took that moment. It's like, never mind what the doctors were saying. Like, you know, all the test results said, yes, you have muscular dystrophy, but I'm thinking they probably have it wrong. So when I wrote that blog, I'm like, wow, I have muscular dystrophy. So then I just, boom, I think I shared it first on Tumblr, and then I just posted it on Facebook. Like, I was like, I'm just going to do it. And the amount of support and feedback I got, and these were people that I chatted to and seen on a regular basis, and they're like, I didn't even know you had that. They're like, because, you know, at that time too, like, I didn't have really, I was just, you know, walking normally, still driving. So when people read that, they're like, wait, you have what? You know what I mean? They're like, oh my God. But then, you know, people enjoy reading the story. You know, they was like, oh my God, like, that's pretty dope. Like, I didn't even know you was dealing with that. So just to get that feedback, it kind of opened the door, like, just a little bit, like not 100%, but it kind of cracked the door a little bit at that time.
Okay. So now you got to say what, like, once you said it cracked the door. Now, when did you say, I'm going to be in fashion and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to be the catalyst of change in the fashion industry and I'm showing up, and yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's like, after, you know, kind of coming out of that shell a little bit, I thought, you know what, I'm a true believer in things do happen for a reason. And, you know, and I gotta, you know, put my dreams to use. Here, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'm here in graduate school, you know, going for business because I want to be a business owner. So I thought, you know, why not create something where I can inspire and empower others in the disability community? Because I know as of right now, I'm dealing through, I know there's others probably out there like myself. So how I came up with the name Girls Chronically Rock is that I knew I wanted something with the word chronic in it, chronic illnesses, but I didn't know how exactly I wanted to incorporate it. I honestly was just lying in bed one night, which most of my ideas come when I'm honestly lying in bed, watching TV, going to sleep. And I thought, Girls Chronically Rock. I love the way it sounded. I love the way it flowed. It sounded empowering. And then I just honestly ran with that. And then I just like the name. I first started off selling off Etsy.com. And then from Etsy, that's when I first launched my website in 2017 and then worked with another graphic designer. That's why, as you can see, my logo back here is so much more better than the one before. It's more like me, and I'm like proud to wear the logo on my t-shirt. So yeah, that's when Girls Chronically Rock was launched. And I love, I still wanted to start with t-shirts because I love t-shirts. I love wearing different graphics. I love different funky sayings on t-shirts and like inspirational quotes. So I wanted my meanings on my t-shirts to mean something and to kind of express my journey and what I'm feeling with, with living with muscular dystrophy and what's going on in the world through my line, so it consists of different things. Like I have Trust Your Dopeness, which I like because I'm like, trust and believe in yourself. Trust and believe that if you want to do something, accomplish something, you can do it. And then I have Hello, my name is Chronically Ill Badass, which everybody loves because it's like, hello, yes, we may be chronically ill with a disability, but we're on a chronically ill badass. We're just trying to strive in this world and make it just like everybody else. And then I recently added one, with everything going on, like Black Lives Matter. But then I also added Black Disabled Lives Matter. I felt like that was important. Here I am as African American and also have a disability. So I felt like that was very powerful and important to put on a shirt. And I'm glad that a lot of people seem to take a liking to that design. So I just like kind of express like my feelings and what I'm going through my line, if that makes sense. But I plan to do so much more with that. I want to create an adaptive clothing collection. Adaptive clothing collection is clothing that would be more accessible and more adaptive for people with disabilities, so we can get dressed more quicker on a regular basis, putting on t-shirts and pants. People don't understand that's like just tiring and exhaustion in itself. So I want to create something fashionable, affordable, and my dream is to get Girls Chronically Rock into hopefully department stores such as Target, Macy's, and just, build and expand. I'm looking to build Girls Chronically Rock into a major empire.
Yes, speak it.
Yes.
It's coming. It's coming.
Thank you.
So tell me, what obstacles have you encountered since you made that decision to show up and be unapologetically you? What obstacles have you encountered, and how did you overcome them?
So definitely I tell people like me, and I feel like I still have my days. You know what I mean? Here I am, I'm living with muscular dystrophy, where there's some mornings I wake up, the body doesn't want to function. There's some days that I'm like so tired, I feel like I can't get out of bed. So it's like, I still have my days. But what keeps me motivated is I love watching my TV shows. My TV shows keep me sane. I'm a TV fanatic. But of course, there's always obstacles. Like there's some days too where, I'm fine. I'm walking around my apartment, but then my leg may want to give out and I have a fall. That's the unfortunate thing with that. But like, thankfully, I do wear my lifeline button in my apartment because I do live alone. So good thing when I fall, I can hit that. I wear it right on my wrist. And then the EMTs or whoever shows up, and then they help me up. But of course, like when that happens, that could put a damper on my day. I could be like, well, man, why did this happen? Why is this happening? Why did I just have this fall? Here I was just watching my shows. But then it's like, knowing I have like, say, some kind of entertainment TV show to watch or something, or when I get inspirational quotes like, or messages in my DM like, oh, I love what you do with Keisha with Girls Chronically Rock, and you're so inspiring, you're sharing your story, like that definitely makes me feel motivated and inspired, because I'm just like, oh, like it, because sometimes you can doubt yourself in what you're doing in your business. When I get those messages like that, I'm like, oh, like it just makes me feel good, because I'm like, oh, well, they like what I'm doing. Let me continue to create more things and continue to keep this Girls Chronically Rock movement going, so different things like that definitely has helped me. And I must say social media has been an amazing platform for me to connect with others in the disability, because when I came out that shell and when I opened that, wrote that blog, I definitely reached out on Instagram and used hashtags like disability awareness, hashtag chronic illness, hashtag muscular dystrophy, and that brought like a whole range of other people. And I'm meeting so many other people out there in the disability community. Because like I tell people, yes, I have the supportive family and friends. They're awesome. They are great. But there's nothing, and I mean nothing like talking to somebody who gets what you are going through on a daily basis. And that's someone that's living with a chronic illness / disability.
So you brought up a good segue into the next question about your support. Who would you say is your biggest supporter?
Oh, sure. Definitely I would say my family. My mom, she lives close by. I got my sister, and thankfully my guy cousins are nice and strong. They help me in the bed at night. And then thankfully, because during the holidays, a lot of majority of my family, they all have houses with stairs. So I'm in a wheelchair. So my cousins, thankfully, because they're so strong, they lift me up the stairs when going to say Christmas, Thanksgiving, and these holiday functions we may have, just so I can be there instead with the family. So it's like I feel like if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to get up those stairs because I'm not able to do that. It's like, it has progressed over time. We are now in 2020. I was diagnosed in like 2010, 2011. So getting up and down the stairs was like totally difficult. So thank goodness to my cousins and my family, they are amazing. And then for the close friends that I have.
Awesome. Yay.
Yeah.
So how do you feel that you are adding value to your community?
I feel like I am adding value just from sharing my story and my journey of how I overcame of being in such denial. As I mentioned earlier, I was telling people I sprained my ankle on a car accident. It's like, I'm not even saying muscular dystrophy. So it's like, to kind of see where, because if you had told me back then, like, oh, do you see yourself starting a fashion business, to inspire what you're going through in your journey and all of that. And if you would be on podcast and featured on those different shows, I'll be like, no way. Like, what are you talking about? So, so just to see where I came and how I'm, so open now to share my story, whereas before I wasn't saying a word to anybody. I was totally just making it seem like I'm walking with this cane because this is a fashion statement, not even saying like I have muscular dystrophy. So I think like, just to share my story. And I met so many other people that was also diagnosed with their chronic illness at a later adult life. So I'm like, wow, it's like, it's not just me. Like, it's so weird how you never know what's going on in your body. It's like, where did this come from? Like, you know me? Like I say that sometimes, it's like, because nobody in my family seems to have it. But my doctors did say that, like, although like nobody in your family seems to have it, it seems like someone in your family could be a carrier, but then you just happen to, if that makes sense. It's like, it's so crazy how life works and how things be going on in your body that you don't know of. But yeah, so I think that's definitely, has helped me along the way.
So would you say, and forgive me if this is inappropriate, but would you say that you're making muscular dystrophy sexy?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, sometimes I feel like I do now, you know what I mean? Because before I was not. And it's like, even like dating, I was not even telling guys at first, like, I was driving again, looking at me, you wouldn't have known, but eventually I know when the time comes, I would have to tell them. But, I wasn't even saying that at first, but then it's like, you fast forward a few years later, it's like I said, I still have my days. So it's like, I don't want to also let people think like, oh yeah, well, yeah, this muscular dystrophy, yeah, I got this. It's like, it's kind of, I really can't control it. This is my body. Right. And it's kind of like how we can't even control what's going on right now in this pandemic. Right. So it's like, but yes, I would think like this is something that's out of my hands. I can't control it. I think I've learned to accept that. It's kind of like, what could I do? I can't say, well, you muscular dystrophy, you come back in the next week. Let me, like, no, this has control over me. I tell people I'm just here to embrace it. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a true believer in things happen for a reason. But yeah, I honestly like that question you just asked me. Yeah, muscular dystrophy, I think I made it sexy along with, the others that have it. Because it's like, yes, people think, the stigma like, oh, you have a disability in your wheelchair, we don't have fun, we don't date. Yes, we do. People in wheelchairs get married, they have lives. Like, we're still human beings. We just need special accommodations, So yes, we date, we go out, and we have fun.
Yes.
I mean, muscular dystrophy sexy. Yes, I love that. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. So you brought up the pandemic. So let me ask you, has that affect you in your business, or like tell me about how the pandemic has affected you?
Yeah, this pandemic has been a hot mess. So mind you, like from March, yes, it did affect my business, and because business started to become slow where people wasn't making much orders, which I totally understand. Here I am, a person that I'm always shopping online, so I understand like you didn't know who was touching your package, where it was coming from. So of course it totally slowed down, but then I kind of thought to myself, what can I do during this pandemic that it's going to be beneficial? So I thought I have an inventory of t-shirts here. Why not start creating some face masks? Because I'm like, we need face masks. Face masks now is going to be obviously the new fashion trend. And it seems like we're going to be wearing them for quite some time. So I thought, why not make some face masks? So that was something that I tried and learned something from this pandemic, because a lot of people don't understand is even prior to a pandemic and when things get better, some people in the disability community have low immune systems. So for some people, this is like kind of our normal of wearing masks on a regular basis. And some people don't get that. I'm like, some people have to wear that going to the doctor's appointment even before all of this pandemic. But yeah, I would say that it definitely affected me the business wise. And I would say is my self living with muscular dystrophy, because I do suffer from like respiratory lung issues too with muscular dystrophy because of the weakening of the muscle. So I honestly, since March, yesterday and last week was the first time I went outside. That's it. I've been inside like since March. So I feel like my mindset, although we're in September, whatever date it is, I don't even know what day it is anymore. I'm like, how are we in September? And my mindset, like I'm still in March. I'm still pre-pandemic, if that makes sense, before stuff shut down. But then I'm also the type too, like I tell people, like I'm okay being at home in my apartment, like because I'm kind of like more of like an introvert. Like I'm okay with being at home watching my TV shows because I'm still at home hustling. I'm still at home on my computer doing, what I have to do for Girls Chronically Rock. Still continuing this movement. So I'm still doing what I have to do, but it was just like weird. Like I was not going outside. I felt like it was going to be apocalypse out there, like The Walking Dead, because I'm obsessed with that show. And I'm like, I just felt like if I went outside, the corona was just going to jump on me. I don't know why. But then as time, like last week was the first time I went out with my caregiver. And that was because I really wanted to go out because I wanted to get a flu shot. I'm one of those, I get my flu shot every year. I'm like, I'd rather go now before it starts to get really cold. Because when it does, then I pretty much hibernate. But yeah, I pretty much had been inside. So that's just to show you that, like, yeah, pandemic, I've been in here freaking out. So my first day, I put on like 2 masks. So you can tell I was extra. But then as I went out, I'm like, it wasn't so bad. You just got to be careful, use your hand sanitizer, and I made it back safely.
Well, we're happy about that.
Yes.
So you keep talking about these shows. I need to know. Well, the audience would like to know.
Yeah.
What shows? You said Walking Dead. What are your shows? I want to know.
Oh my God, I watch everything. So I watch like from Housewives of Atlanta. I watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Yes, I'm a Kardashian fan. I know some people, like for my mother, for instance, I was like, Mom, Kardashians are back on tonight. She's like, who cares? I'm like, Mom, like I like them, but she's like, girl, bye. But yeah, I watch everything. And then I like to watch like Jersey Shore. And then I love watching Netflix. And then I would turn around and watch some movies on Lifetime. I feel like I have a range. I love to watch like the entertainment of like, watching Love and Hip Hop, Marriage Boot Camp. Another show I love is, you ever watch Love After Lockup? That show was hilarious.
No, but someone was telling me about it. So I guess now I got to check it out.
You need, like, that show, you're like, whoa. And another one is 90 Day Fiance. That's another one I'm obsessed with.
Okay.
Yes.
You'll probably get along well with my sister. She's like watches all those shows. I'm like, oh boy.
Yes, we could definitely have a group chat because it's so nice too when you talk to others that watch the same shows because you're like, is this real? You're like, wait, did you see that? So yeah, my shows definitely keep me entertained. They really do.
Okay. Yeah. Like after I watched what was that? Love at First Sight. That was like my last one that I watched. And I got so angry with some of the people on that show. I was like, I can't watch another one. I was just mad. I was just mad at the stupidity of some of them. And I was like, and the audacity. I wanted to fight. I'm not a fighter, but I wanted to fight after that show. Some of those people.
Sometimes they get you there. It's true. It's true. Some of these shows they get you there. It's true. You like really get involved in the life. You're like,
yes.
Like, yeah, it takes you there. It does.
Yeah, I was like, I can't have you guys control my energy. I need to step away from this. I can't watch it because this is making me mad. Okay, let's go back to business. We gotta talk about business.
Okay.
So tell me, what tips would you give someone that's kind of sitting on the fence of their field of dreams? They want to take a step like you, but they just can't. Like, what tips would you give someone like that?
I would definitely say, like I always tell people, if you have an idea or something you want to do, I would just say go for it. And yes, I know it's more easier said than done, but before you know it, your idea could be up and running. And it's like, you may have doubted before and then boom, you never know how far you can make it. And I would definitely recommend like being a part of these different groups that, some of us are part of on Facebook, like Women Helping Women, Women Entrepreneur, Boston Business Women. That has definitely helped me along the way to succeed and meeting people like yourself so I can be on your podcast and, you know, share my story on different shows. I would definitely recommend being a part of those groups because you never know who possibly you could collaborate with. You could possibly meet your business partner in one of these groups and you can get ideas and tips off. You know, you ask a question and, you know, you could get like so many responses and answers and you're like, wow. So I would definitely, you know, use that support system because I feel like the social media game today is totally different from when, you know, I was growing up. When I was in college, I told my niece, like, that's when Facebook was created. So I'm like, now you guys have a whole different range. So I definitely feel like taking advantage of that is key.
Right, right. You just maybe when you said that, it made me think of, because that one picture of who was the person who became our first friend when we signed up for Facebook back when it was
yes, who was that?
I forgot which one it was, but he was like this, like at his computer, and the picture was like this. It was something like that, right? And I was like, "Ooh, who's this guy?" Ooh, and we were excited, like, okay,
exactly. Can you imagine? I'm like,
that's so funny. No one knew, right? And no one knew, and I'm sure they didn't know like what this was going to explode into. So just imagine, you know what I mean, like. So that's a part of like, yeah, just get off that fence, go towards your dreams, your vision. You never know what can happen.
Exactly.
Wow.
Especially watching, because I remember that movie. Did you ever see that from Mark Zuckerberg? I think it's called The Social Network. That was like so inspiring, right? It's like, wow, and he did that from his dorm room.
Right. I'm like, man, I should have. What was I doing in my dorm room? I think I was like eating popcorn and candy and. What is
exactly
ordering food from the cafe? I don't think I was creating companies.
Yeah, no, definitely was not. But hey, we are now, right?
That's right. That's right. Better late than never, right? Okay, so it is time for the lightning round. All right, are you ready? So I'm going to ask 5 questions. And, I say answer them short and sweet. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, whatever, however it goes. We just go flow. Okay. All right. So what initially held you back from making your commitment to change, if anything did?
I would say my muscular dystrophy, being diagnosed with that, definitely made a change on how I impacted and, different things I was focusing on. Okay.
But now let me ask you, once that happened, and you wanted to, and you were thinking about going into the fashion industry again, still, what would have held you back at that point? Like, was there anything that held you back at that point?
Oh, you mean like after I was diagnosed?
Right. Like after you were going to start doing fashion and kind of show up in the world, being a representative of muscular dystrophy, like, was there a point where you were like, what am I going to do this, or I'm not going to do this? Or you were like, no, I'm gung ho, I'm in it.
Yeah, I think that was like 50-50 because one minute, I'm like, what is going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, especially after all the things I was reading online. So I honestly felt a part of me was like, no, I'm not going to do this. Like I wasn't accepting I had muscular dystrophy or what the future holds with the business I wanted to do. But then I totally had a drastic change and then totally shifted where, if you had asked me, oh, would I have become the muscular dystrophy state ambassador? I'll be like, no way. So be able to do that and share my story and me with so many others. I'm just like, wow, like, look at this. So it's like, this all happened for a reason. So,
yes,
so yeah, that's absolutely where I'm at now.
Okay. So what is the best advice you have ever received?
Best advice I've ever received. I would say when someone told me just to keep at it, keep going, don't stop. And I definitely try to remember that each and every day, like just keep going, especially like, as I mentioned before, I may have a bad day if I may fall or the body feels like so fatigued. It's like I just try to think of things that I'm like, I got to keep going. This is what I was here to do. This is my platform. Let me keep doing me. So yeah, just keep going. Don't let anything stop you.
Yes. All right. You know,
Yes.
when you were saying just for some reason, it's a song came to mind. Sometimes, you know, songs always come to my mind. Either there's a word or something that triggers it. And then one of my past guests said, you got to always have a theme song. And so when you said something, the song that came to mind, "Don't Stop Believing."
That is a good one.
Yes. Okay, so now you're gonna always have that in your mind. Now you're gonna be thinking, "Oh, Miss Nikki was saying," and I want to hear about it. Next time that happens, you can be like, "Oh, Miss Nikki, you put that song in my mind now."
Definitely.
So okay, so Keisha, share a personal habit that contributes to your success.
Personal habit. I would say watching my TV shows, honestly. It sounds crazy, but it really does. And I feel like sometimes even when I watch them, I get inspired by certain TV shows, different sayings, and the foolishness, ratchetness, whatever I watch. I'm like, So and it just makes me feel happy, if that makes sense. It keeps me sane.
Okay.
So it's like knowing I have something like that to look forward to. It's like that keeps me like humble.
Okay. Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad that you actually said that, because when people talk about like, oh, how is it that I stay successful, they don't look at the fact, something very simple of keeping your mindset in the right place, and something that makes you laugh is a part of being successful. Because being as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of stresses, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of things that come with it. And if you don't take that moment to just kind of like unwind a little bit, like then you know, it could be that, you know, you're overdoing it, right, and you fall out. So like my stress reliever is watching Family Feud. So I know, and it's because it's just funny. It's funny,
entertaining.
It's entertaining, and then I feel the joy of the people when they win the money. I'm like, of course, I'd rather have the money, but I'm happy that they're being blessed with it. So so I totally get you on that. So what book would you recommend to the C2C audience, and why?
I like to read more articles. I noticed I haven't honestly read a book in like a long time, but I would say I love to read like articles. Like there was one by Damon on Shark Tank that I like to watch. I mean, that I read online, and I love to watch Shark Tank, by the way. So, you know, I like to read anything that like successful like entrepreneurs, and I'd like to look up like articles like on the HuffPost, anything on Google. But then I also get some like ebooks on Amazon.
Okay.
So it's like, so I would get like some of those, like, you know, anything with entrepreneurship or anything that's gonna feel like inspired and I motivate. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty dope. Like, look at how he came from that. So it's like, I'm more like to see, especially more visuals. Like the other day I was inspired by, I watched the McDonald's documentary. And it's like, I'm like, wow. And especially I'm obsessed with McDonald's. I know it's bad, but I am. But, you know, just to see that, I'm like, wow, like that was inspiring. And I like, after I watched that, I'm like, that's dope. Like I felt like inspired and empowered, and then I started to think of more ideas for Girls Chronically Rock. So when I watch things like that, specifically, like that just gives me like just so much happiness. I don't know why.
Well, it's the seeing the starting, like the start, and then
like
seeing how
scratch.
Yes,
that's
and
like so
the
amazing
journey.
to me.
Yeah. So if you found out that you had 1 hour left to live, and you were given the opportunity to give one final message, what would it be?
I would say just do it. I would say just go for it. Life is too short. Do what you have to do. That's what I think we all can realize that during this pandemic too. So just go for it. If you got an idea, you want something you want to do, girl, just do it.
Yes, absolutely. And we're being forced to. It's taking us back to where we have to do the mom and pop shop, and we are the people that are running our neighborhoods at this point, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. And this is the time. So that's perfect. Yeah. So thank you so much. Oh my God.
You have to tell us having me.
Yes. Please tell our audience where they can find you, like what they can see what you're doing, you know, let us know.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram. I am Girls Chronically _Rock. Definitely check out my website and my merch. I have everything listed on there, girlschronicallyrock.com. And please check out my latest. I just launched my podcast. It's still fairly new, not as professional as of yet, but it's Girls Chronically Rock podcast, and that's on Anchor. So definitely check that out. But mostly everything is on my website, girlschronicallyrock.com. I'm on Facebook, Girls Chronically Rock, Keisha Greaves. So yeah, definitely reach out, send me a message, and I'd love to hear from you guys. But yeah, you can find me on all those platforms.
Okay, so now I'm a little upset because you ain't tell me about this podcast.
Yeah, it's still.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it in the bio. Okay, so tell us a little bit about
that bio.
Listen, it's out there now. Please tell us about the podcast. What can we expect from you on this podcast?
Sure. So the first few episodes of my podcast, I think I literally just maybe launched it last month. I was pretty much here, and for the longest time, people were like, "Oh, you should start your podcast. You've been on so many, you have things to share." And I'm like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like one thing. But then I felt like a podcast might be kind of cool because then I'm like, it could just be your voice. Like you don't have to get all like dolled up like how you do like a YouTube channel. But I just wasn't sure what I wanted it to be. And the first podcast episode, I just kind of really just talked about me and my journey and my story and, things I did with Muscular Dystrophy Association and how I was diagnosed. So the first few episodes are just mostly me. I talk about my GoFundMe that I have going on now for my accessible vehicle, because accessible vehicles for people with disabilities cost over $70,000.
Wow.
So please feel free to check out my GoFundMe, please. Just as little as $5 makes a difference. So I just talk about those little things on my podcast, and and then I also have other podcast features, like other podcasts that I was on. I, kind of did like a cross promo, and then I put that on my Anchor Girls Chronically Rock podcast as well. Just to, keep the audiences going, because, this is something still new for me. I want to make sure, I just keep them entertained. So last week, Monday, was actually my first interview guest that I had one of my friends, Gwendolyn, from the disability community. She has MS, and that's actually going to be coming out today. So each week, I'm just going to think of every guest and honestly just go with the flow, and then hopefully it will be big and awesome like yours.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, that is so wonderful. I'm glad that you threw that in there at the end. At least it got in there so we could talk about that.
So yes, so new.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So so make sure you guys check out her podcast as well, and check out all the links that she provided. Did you give me the link for your GoFundMe as well?
I can send that to you.
Okay, so we're gonna. Okay, good, because we're gonna put that also in the note section. So
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So that is a wrap. Thank you so much for being a guest, a VIP guest. You're so welcome. Yes, vivaciously inspiring person. That's what you are. So thank you. You're welcome. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We hope that you feel inspired to keep moving forward towards your goals, and you're going to make a commitment to change your life and stick with them. So please make sure, again, to check out all the links provided by our guests and share today's podcast with information with anyone you feel may benefit from it. And remember, in order to get to the top of the steps, you have to take the first step. But just don't step on anyone on the way, because you just might trip. This is Miss Nikki. Till next time. Bye.